All right, we've looked at mutations and how they give rise to new traits and new genes and things like that. The other one, though, remember, is mutation. The other one is sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction doesn't necessarily lead to new traits entirely, but new combinations. Because you are a mix of your mom and your dad's genetic material, and that created a new individual. You are a new mix that has never existed before. So out of all the species out there, out of all the humans out there, there's probably, unless you're an identical twin, there is nobody out there that's exactly like you. So maybe you have a trait through sexual reproduction that's a combination of genes. Maybe you got this gene from your mom and this gene from your dad, and those two together make you better looking. They make you faster. They make you stronger. They make you whatever. So that recombination or recombining of genes leads to some new mixtures, new combinations that may give you an advantage. Not necessarily brand new genes, but those combinations might work really well together. So in your notes there, it talks about sexually reproducing species have those three reasons why this works. One, you have 2 copies of each gene. So let's say and we're going to oversimplify this because human genetics gets a little complicated, but let's say your genes, you have a copy of a gene from your mom over here, and you have another copy of that exact same gene from your dad over here. And they both code for the same thing. Let's say hair color. So you have a gene from mom and you have a gene from dad. Now you've learned probably in other science courses like dominance and recessive. So maybe you have a big B dominant gene from your mom and a little b recessive gene from your dad. So really this is the gene that's going to show up, but you have both of those genes there. When your genes combination from your mom and your dad, let's say here's 4 different genes, when they get passed on, we'll just use some letters here. Let's say this is big D, a little f, and a big F, and a little e and a little e. So let's say these are the traits that you got passed. 4 genes from your mom and 4 copies from your dad. Well, let's say for some reason that big B and this big F together in you gives you an advantage. That combination is something that provides you with some advantage, whether that's in survival or whether that's in being successfully in successful matings, right? So that those genes can be passed on. That combination is where it comes from. Now, 2, the genes that an offspring inherits from either parent is determined randomly. So when, for example, let's say this is your genetic code here, when you make either sperm or eggs, your body, when it's splitting that cell into 2 haploid cells, you'll learn more about that in Bio 30, but it basically goes through and randomly sorts these out. And so it says, okay, we got to make a sperm, we got to make an egg, let's go. I need one of these, I need one of these, I need one of these, and I need one of these. And so now that sperm is going to be a little b, a big D, a little f, and a little e. And that's that sperm. Then you make, let's say then you make another one. Let me switch colors. All right, we got to make another sperm. All right, now it's going to be this one again, this one, and this one. So now that sperm is a little b, a big D, a big F, and a little e. So they're just randomly getting sorted out. So every sperm and every egg are different because they're a different random mixture of your dad's traits or your mom's traits or your traits that you might pass on to your offspring. And 3, many sexually reproducing species choose their mates, which leads to different combinations of traits. And this is one of the big things in sexually reproducing species, that it's not just random sorting of genes, although that's part of it, but it's also the fact that out there, when a species is selecting mates, they don't usually do it randomly. There are a few that do, but most have some sort of selection. And that's probably what led to things like peacocks having bright colors and big fanned out beautiful tails on the males, because over time it had these mutations that made it have shiny feathers and more beautiful tails and longer tails that allowed it to attract mates. Now, the toss-up there is maybe having bright, shiny blue feathers makes you more attractive to the females of your species. It also probably makes it a lot easier for your predators to see you. So there's probably a balance in that too, that maybe this combination of traits or maybe this mutation gives me an advantage in my sexual reproduction. My chance of passing on my genes is better because I have this gene or this combination. But that also might make me more conspicuous or visible to my predators. And so there's a balance. It's why the female in many species is not brightly covered. They're almost always camouflaged. They can hide, they can protect their eggs. That gives them an advantage to pass on their genes. Males, on the other hand, have to compete for mates. And so typically the male of the species needs to be bigger or stronger or have bigger antlers or brighter colored feathers or something in order to give it an advantage to get those matings. So that sexual reproduction, that competition, that combination of genes, that sexual combination of genes that leads to new variation, but also that pressure to find a mate and to be able to pass on your genes leads to different selective pressures that change how beneficial or how detrimental a trait might be to your survival or your fitness or at least your ability to pass on your genes. And so sometimes you make a sacrifice to say, yeah, I'm more visible to my predators, but I've got a better chance of being able to pass on my genes through reproduction, so it's worth it. And that's led to some species becoming what we see today with bright, beautiful feathers and things like that. So that's kind of sexual reproduction. There's how it works in combining genes, how it works that you are a mix of genes that's probably never existed before, and that may give you an advantage, either a survival advantage or a reproductive advantage. And either one is going to help you pass on your traits better to the next generation. So if you have any questions about how sexual reproduction plays into this, let me know. But hopefully this kind of all makes sense. It gets a little bit fuzzy if you're not understanding some of this stuff. Like I said, just ask questions and I'll try to fill in any gaps that I might have left you with. But hopefully that makes sense.